legal proceedings against Johnny Somali in South Korea could prevent him from leaving the country for months. He has no way of earning money.
So to all the people of South Korea, I just want to apologize for what I've done, and I really did not mean to hurt your guys' pride this much. You guys are a good people, you guys are a great people, and for the most part, other than Mr. Navy SEAL here, I've had a great experience with a lot of the South Korean people, and it was not my intention to really hurt you guys.
We've got a Johnny Somali update that's juicier than a rotten peach, and about as pleasant. If you're not familiar with Johnny Somali, consider yourself lucky. He's the kind of guy you take one look at and instinctively want to smack, like his mere existence radiates punch me energy. This walking landfill of a human being has been wreaking havoc across various countries for years, live streaming his stupidity like it's some kind of public service. Spoiler alert, it's not. It's just obnoxious, disrespectful garbage. But karma, my friends, is catching up. Finally, South Korea isn't playing games with this one, and it's about time someone held this turd accountable. Here's the rundown. Johnny Somali, whose real name is Ramzi Ked Ismail, because of course, even his name sounds like a budget villain from a bad movie, has found himself neck-deep in trouble. A trial date has been set, and let me tell you, it's looking bleaker for Johnny than a vegetarian at a steakhouse. South Korea isn't just slapping him on the wrist and sending him home like Japan or Tel Aviv did. No, they've banned him from leaving the country entirely. He's stuck there with no way to earn money because, guess what? He's been banned from YouTube, Rumble, and probably every other platform he thought he could exploit to fund his nonsense. Even TikTok might have given him the boot, and when TikTok doesn't want you, you know you've really hit rock bottom. So now, Johnny's just marinating in his own failure, unable to leave, unable to make money, and unable to do anything except stew in the mess he created. The best part? He's opted for a public defender to represent him in court, which is basically the legal equivalent of bringing a knife to a gunfight. Why? Because he can't afford a proper lawyer. No surprise there. When your entire career is built on being an international pest, you're not exactly raking in the big bucks. Meanwhile, the prosecutor handling his case has a 90% win rate in obstruction of business cases. 90%. Johnny might as well start practicing his "I'm sorry" speech in Korean, though I doubt it'll do him any good. And let's not forget why he's even in this situation. Johnny's shtick is running around foreign countries, being as offensive as humanly possible, and live streaming it for his equally degenerate fanbase. In Japan, he mocked Hiroshima and Nagasaki victims, shouting, "We'll do it again," because apparently, being a decent human being was too much effort for him. In South Korea, he decided to disrespect a monument honoring the victims of sexual slavery during World War II. Because why stop at offensive when you can aim for downright deplorable? It's like he wakes up every morning and thinks, how can I make the world hate me even more today? Mission accomplished, Johnny. But wait, there's more. Alongside the obstruction of business charge, Johnny might also face narcotics charges. Apparently he's shaved his head, which some speculate is a pathetic attempt to hide evidence of drug use. Not that it matters. He live-streamed most of his questionable activities, effectively handing prosecutors a treasure trove of evidence. If convicted, Johnny could be looking at 10 years behind bars for the narcotics charge alone. Combine that with the obstruction of business charge, which carries a potential 5-year sentence, and you've got a recipe for Johnny spending the better part of the next decade in a South Korean prison. Honestly, it's poetic justice. Oh, and let's not forget the cherry on top. Johnny got punched square in the face by a South Korean YouTuber and former Navy SEAL. This guy didn't just throw a casual jab, he clocked Johnny right in front of police officers. That's how much he couldn't stand him. And honestly, who can blame him? The puncher, now facing his own legal trouble, has been hailed as a hero by many South Koreans. There's even been talk of public donations to cover his legal costs. Imagine being so despised that people are crowdfunding to support the guy who decked you. That's Johnny's legacy right there. Despite all this, Johnny's been running his mouth, claiming he'll be back in the US without serving jail time. Sure, Johnny, keep dreaming. There's absolutely no evidence to back that up. But hey, delusion is free. Meanwhile, his trial could drag on for months, potentially into the summer, leaving him stuck in South Korea with no income and no escape. And that's assuming no additional charges are filed, which, let's be honest, seems unlikely given his track record. The South Korean legal system is probably sifting through his live streams as we speak, looking for more reasons to lock him up. So let's talk about what Johnny's doing now, or more accurately, not doing. Picture this. A grown man who built his brand on being the loudest, rudest, and most ignorant clown on the internet, now sitting in a tiny South Korean apartment, sweating bullets. No more content to churn out, no stream of donations from his equally cringe fanboys, and definitely no freedom to hop on a plane and scurry back to the States. For once, Johnny's antics aren't paying off. Shocking, I know. Word on the street is that Johnny's big defense strategy is to cry victim. Yep, you heard me. The man who spent years mocking tragedies, harassing locals, and stirring up every bit of chaos he could muster is now claiming he's being unfairly treated. The irony is thicker than his skull, and that's saying something. He's apparently trying to spin his arrest as some kind of grand conspiracy, like the South Korean government has nothing better to do than plot against a 2-bit wannabe internet star. As if their courts and prosecutors are sitting there like, you know who's public enemy number one? Johnny freaking Somali. Sure, Johnny, the world revolves around you. Meanwhile, Johnny's little fanbase has dwindled to a pitiful handful of trolls who still think his brand of disrespectful nonsense is entertainment. These folks are on social media trying to drum up support for their fallen hero, saying things like, "Free Johnny, he's innocent." Innocent of what exactly? Harassing people on camera, obstructing businesses, potential drug use. Oh, wait, maybe they're talking about him being innocent of having a single ounce of common sense. Yeah, we'll give him that. But otherwise, Johnny's got more receipts for his crimes than a CVS checkout. And let's get into the real kicker here. Johnny's been trying to get some sympathy by talking about his hardships in Korea. According to some sources, he's been complaining about the conditions of his detainment, claiming it's all so unfair. Oh, really, Johnny? You're mad because the bed isn't comfy enough? Because the food isn't 5-star dining? This is the same guy who had zero issue disrespecting cultures, taunting victims of historical atrocities, and making people's daily lives miserable for the sake of his live stream clout. But now that he's facing a bit of discomfort, it's suddenly a tragedy. My guy, this is called consequences. Look it up. And the legal proceedings? Oh, they're heating up. His public defender, bless their soul, probably spends their days praying for a miracle because Johnny's case is looking as airtight as a vacuum-sealed bag. Reports suggest that South Korean prosecutors have been combing through Johnny's past live streams, gathering evidence like kids collecting Halloween candy. If you thought his Hiroshima comments or that disgusting stunt at the memorial were bad, rumor has it there's even worse stuff they've unearthed. Imagine being so problematic that your live stream history is an entire legal goldmine. Johnny practically gift-wrapped his own conviction. To add to the hilarity, Johnny's now the butt of memes circulating in South Korea. There's one where he's photoshopped into a prison cell holding a selfie stick with the caption, "Live from my new studio." Another shows him behind bars with a speech bubble that says, "Smash that like button for my commissary fund." The man wanted attention, and he's finally got it, just not the kind that pays the bills. If Karma had a marketing department, this would be their masterpiece. But let's talk about the potential fallout. If Johnny ends up serving time in a South Korean prison, which, let's be honest, is looking more likely every day, he's in for a rough ride. Forget the luxuries of American prisons. South Korea doesn't play when it comes to discipline and order. His days will be filled with regimented schedules, communal work, and absolutely zero tolerance for his antics. No live streams, no followers, no excuses, just a whole lot of time to think about how he managed to ruin his own life. Maybe he'll even learn a little humility, though I wouldn't bet on it. And in case you were wondering, Johnny's YouTube ban seems permanent. He's tried appealing, of course, claiming his ban is a violation of free speech. Nice try, Johnny, but hate speech and harassment don't qualify as free speech just because you slapped a camera in front of your face. Even platforms like Rumble, which are notorious for allowing controversial creators, have apparently distanced themselves. That's right, when even Rumble says, "No thanks," you know you've hit rock bottom. So here we are, folks. Johnny Somali, the self-proclaimed king of disrespect, reduced to a punchline and a cautionary tale. His career is in shambles, his freedom is on the line, and his fanbase is melting away faster than ice cream on a hot day. Honestly, it's almost poetic. Johnny wanted fame, and he got it, but at the cost of his reputation, his freedom, and his future. And just when you think Johnny Somali's downward spiral couldn't dig any deeper into the Earth's crust, the man somehow finds new ways to embarrass himself. Turns out, his time in legal limbo isn't just a personal crisis. It's become an international spectacle. Media outlets in South Korea are having an absolute field day with his case, dissecting every absurd detail. Johnny's antics have sparked debates about foreign influencers, cultural respect, and the dangers of letting online fame go to your head. You'd think being the center of such a serious conversation would humble him. Spoiler alert, it hasn't. Apparently, Johnny has been doubling down on his victim complex. From behind bars, or wherever they're keeping him for now, he's been trying to spin a sob story about how he's misunderstood, targeted, and all that jazz. The man's got all the audacity in the world, but absolutely zero self-awareness. Meanwhile, South Korean officials aren't buying it for a second. They're focused on building their case, and from what insiders are saying, they're not just coming for Johnny, they're aiming to make an example out of him. And honestly, they should. Because if there's one thing the world doesn't need, it's another disrespectful clout chaser thinking they can get away with anything. What's really wild, though, is how Johnny's case is affecting other influencers. His downfall has put a spotlight on the IRL streaming culture, with critics calling out how it incentivizes reckless behavior for clicks. Some influencers are scrambling to clean up their act, terrified they'll be the next Johnny Somali. Others, of course, are doubling down on their own foolishness, because nothing screams career longevity like following in the footsteps of a guy who's one court date away from wearing prison stripes. It's a mess, but it's also a much-needed wake-up call for the whole industry. Back on the ground in South Korea, locals aren't exactly shedding tears over Johnny's predicament. If anything, his arrest has been met with a mix of relief and schadenfreude. People have taken to social media to share their own run-ins with Johnny, and let's just say the stories aren't painting him in a better light. From rude comments to outright harassment, it seems like Johnny left a trail of bad vibes wherever he went. It's no wonder his case is being watched so closely. This isn't just about one man's bad behavior, it's about sending a message that this kind of nonsense won't fly. And speaking of bad vibes, let's talk about Johnny's former crew. Remember those random hanger-ons who used to show up in his streams? Well, most of them have jumped ship faster than you can say canceled. Some have even gone public with their own grievances, claiming Johnny was toxic, manipulative, and impossible to work with. One ex-streaming buddy described him as a ticking time bomb of drama, which honestly sounds about right. These folks are now trying to distance themselves from the whole debacle, probably hoping no one remembers they were ever associated with him. Meanwhile, over in the US, Johnny's situation is sparking some debates about extradition and international law. Some legal experts are speculating that if South Korea decides to throw the book at him, Johnny could be looking at a very long stint away from American soil. And even if he does manage to wiggle out of this one, the chances of him being welcomed back to South Korea, or any other country he's offended, are slim to none. His passport might as well have persona non grata stamped across it at this point. But let's not forget the comedy gold that is Johnny's own social media. Even though his YouTube channel is toast, some of his older posts are still floating around. And boy, do they age like milk. Clips of him bragging about how untouchable he is are now being shared far and wide with captions like, "Touchdown in reality, Johnny." Memes are popping up faster than his live streams used to, and they're brutal. One popular edit shows Johnny photoshopped into a courtroom with the caption, "Your Honor, it was just a prank." The internet's collective roast is relentless, and honestly, he's earned every pixel of it. Now, let's not forget the cherry on top of this disaster Sunday, Johnny's finances. Rumor has it that whatever money he made from his streaming days is rapidly dwindling. Legal fees, fines, and the complete absence of new income have left him in a financial tailspin. He's reportedly trying to scrape together some cash by selling off his remaining equipment. But let's be real, who's going to buy a microphone tainted by his nonsense? If he wasn't broke before, he's heading there at lightning speed. And here's the kicker. Some folks are speculating that Johnny might try to rebrand if he ever gets out of this mess. Can you imagine? Johnny Somali 2.0, but this time he's changed and wants to be a positive force in the community. Sure, Jan,